What's up, crypto junkies? Jay coming at you. We're going to talk Bitcoin. We're going to talk gold, silver, ETFs, futures, and some of this macro and micro, right? This is a conversation that I think you guys are going to absolutely walk away with a ton of value from. This is some more of my research and some more of my madness kind of coming together in solidified points. Let's talk through this, right? I don't have my face on screen because I haven't showered yet this morning and my morning's kind of a mess. But anyways, let's talk about this. So we need to go back in time and talk a little bit about gold. And so that way we can take some from that, some knowledge, some information from that, and apply it to what we're seeing with Bitcoin. You'll start to see the very, very crucial importance of futures and the ETFs going on in crypto right now. So first and foremost, the very first gold futures contract or launch future trading happened for the CME in 1972 and the COMEX, C-O-M-E-X, which is the biggest exchange in New York by far, in 1974. Now, the very first ETF didn't start in gold. Where is it? This is the exact date that you see on screen. Yep, March 3rd, 2003. 31 years later until they got an ETF. Starting to see here, Bitcoin, December 17th and 18th of 2017 futures. 2018, September this year, we will see the first ETFs approved. 1 year. 31 years it took in gold, 1 year in crypto. You're starting to see how scared they are of this? That's why this is getting pushed through. Mark my words, they were watching this since the beginning. They started getting nervous last summer in July when I first came into crypto, and they forced that through right when the bull market was just about to go even more parabolic than it already was. We would have seen a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 Bitcoin, which is why all of us now look like assholes who predicted that, because as soon as the futures contracts got rolled out, price tanked. No, it's just a correction. No, the parabolic curve wasn't done yet. They stepped in, and I bet you at some point we'll hear about how, like, overnight that bill or whatever whoever they needed to talk to, it got passed. Because they were in the background begging and pleading, saying if we don't stop this, everyone's going to be a millionaire overnight and it's going to break the banks. Kind of like how in 2008, it's too big to fail, right? Anyways, let's keep going on this gold journey here. A lot of people don't know much about gold and silver. You know, JP Morgan is, I think, one of the biggest players in gold. Maybe not silver, but gold. And they're one of the biggest manipulators, I think, as well. They have their own commodities investment service for metals, and they allow you to use, because they're a custodian, right? They have custodian locations all over the world, but I think one of their biggest is in London. So JP Morgan has a vault in London that you can store your precious metals, okay? And that's where it stores all of its precious metals as well, in their own vaults. That's interesting to know, right? A lot of people, I don't think, even know that, but I've been digging even more, and what I found is that JP Morgan, that they picked up, they inherited a lot of the short positions that Bear Stearns had on the COMEX and on gold and silver in March of 2008. Okay, and we've already seen how JP Morgan, because they offer commodities as a service, they can already play around with the fact that they can lie a little bit and fudge the numbers, and I think they have been, okay? Again, let's not put too much past Jamie Dimon. This is the same guy who, the very first time he came out and said Bitcoin was a joke, on that same day, they were doing an incubator for ETH at one of his other locations. Then what, a couple months later, he comes out and says, no, it's not all bad. This is after he tried to prosecute and fire any employee who is found to be doing crypto activity, which that was a public front. They were already developing in the background. They now are in the game of blockchain patents and, you know, heavily involved in the blockchain side of crypto. We can't put too much past him, right? And he's a banker at heart. He's one of the central banking families who, you know, tried 3 times to push through the Federal Reserve Act before it finally was pushed through in 1913. His family is running rich with this stuff, right? So anyways, let me dig through some of this data here, because I believe that we need to pay attention to JP Morgan and its action on the COMEX, most importantly. Okay, so December 4th, JP Morgan had a net short position in COMEX gold futures of 75,000 contracts, give or take. This position represented 20% of the true net open interest on that date. Once 68,648 spread contracts were removed from the total open interest of 434,000 contracts. On that date, the price of gold was $1,700. That right there, that piece kind of represents the current corner that JP Morgan has on this commodity, which there's not supposed to be a corner on commodities markets, which is why the commodity regulation formed in the 1930s, is so that nobody could have a corner in the market. It happened early on in the copper market. I remember hearing about that in one of the interviews that I listened to at some point. Somebody, you know, got in big on copper and ran that up, and they made a ton of money on it, but it was some interview that I heard a long time ago. So the amount of contracts that they're constantly floating for longs and shorts are insane in the gold futures. And on the ETF side of it as well, they're involved in a big player because they're a custodian. They are a holder. They have vaults. They own gold, physical gold. They're a bank. So they're able to create a lot of this, let's call it, you know, gold out of thin air, you know, gold on paper and everything else, is because they are fully approved to do so, right? Like, let's not forget the banks print trillions of dollars every single year. You know, we don't get a vote in that, do we? But because they're approved to do so and they're trusted to do so, they 100% do it. Okay, so anyways, that's enough. I think I had some other stuff I wanted to talk about on gold and silver side, but we'll just skip it. Moral of the story, if you haven't kind of pieced it together, and you can go and dive down that rabbit hole, I'm just trying to give you some of the macro, is that's what some of the dates and some of the current things look like with gold. There's a large group of people who feel like gold has been suppressed for the last 25 years. Well, that makes total sense. Ever since the very first futures contract was launched, 72 and 74, that's well over, what, 50 years, 60 years? I don't know. I don't feel like doing math in my head. So then we have the ETFs in 2003. Now that's been a decade. Like, the thing you got to look at is, even just if you understand the basics of supply and demand, the current price of gold should not be where it's at right now. It should not be where it's at right now. And silver, the same thing, because there's not enough supply to go around the entire planet for every person to have 1 ounce of each. There's not enough for not even half of that, not even a quarter of that, based on our current understanding of the supply that exists, right? That's all stuff that kind of gets brushed under the rug. Like, you don't hear that being talked about, right? You don't hear about that talked about on Bloomberg. You don't hear that talked about on, you know, the Wall Street show at 8 a.m. or whatever shows exist right now. I don't watch TV, so I have no clue. But you don't hear about that at all. You hear about it from like rogue people like me who have taken the time to research, and we're all raising our hand kind of saying like, what the f is going on here? There's not enough supply to go around, and yet you're telling me that the demand is that low? No. When we have every banking institution, every major banking institution with the power to just print through futures and ETFs, we're seeing suppression, my friends. We're seeing manipulation and suppression happening. And to me, it's really clear. I hope that makes sense to you, but I don't know if it does, okay? We look at gold, I was way zoomed out there, so let's try and zoom way in. If we look at gold today, it's kind of a joke. What we're seeing is because it's just literally hanging out here on this 236 support line, and it's doing all. And so now let's pivot into Bitcoin. You got to understand, like, when the control comes in, which everyone's begging for, I don't understand. I was one of these people with the futures. I thought the futures would be a good idea. I was stupid. I can admit that. I had no idea. I had done zero research about the history of futures and what it's done to other commodity markets. I was clueless. So that's part of why I'm shooting videos like this all the time, is to bring you guys up to speed and understand that it's not a good thing. The futures was not a good thing in crypto so soon. And now the ETFs, mark my words, they are not a good thing at all. But the retail money, the I want a Lambo, when moon, sir, those retards are the ones who want this so bad that they're going to use that as the sample size of demographic that they're going to say is begging for it. So that's why we should do it. But once these control mechanisms are put in place, they will be able to actively, fully manipulate and suppress the price of Bitcoin and any other market that they open up. So this is where we will start to see the flippening happen and the uncoupling of all the altcoins to Bitcoin, because it will have to. It won't make sense anymore. And so based on the supply and demand models of each cryptocurrency being so different, as soon as Bitcoin is suppressed, then the rest will have to break apart. So at this point, just to put a prediction out there, I don't think we will see another bull run ever on Bitcoin unless hyperinflation happens or the US dollar goes away. I think that's going to happen in the next 2 years, over the span of the next 2 years. Why? Over 200 trillion, what is it? $247 trillion in debt globally. $21 trillion in debt in America, which there's a couple sites you can actually watch this number calculator going up day in and day out of the US debt ratio, okay? And it gives you exact specifics on a lot of these aspects, which is scary. So I think hyperinflation will happen, or the fall of the US dollar will happen, is because what they're doing is there's too much robbing Peter to pay Paul. Funny enough, right? Like, you should never over leverage yourself. You should never take money from this thing to pay off this other person, but yet they do it day in and day out. So the average American is scalded to do that and taught that they're a piece of shit if they do that. But the banks have been doing that since the get-go. They're constantly front running on markets. Amazon comes to mind, and the front running that we saw happen on Amazon when it was all the way at $5 up until what it's at now. And I see front running happening in crypto right now. There was front running that happened in Bitcoin specifically, and I've seen it in other altcoins, Ethereum, etc. And that has happened since the start, and it will continue to happen because they need to front run these markets so they can go and pay off their debts and continue to be the big players that they are. So it makes sense. And some people, this might piss you off. I got something for you. Hopefully I remember to say it in this video later on. But that's what we're dealing with, right? So it's not a good thing that these things are getting introduced into crypto. And it's terrifying to me that the majority of people are raising their hand begging for it. Yeah, please, please, please. Because they're so blinded by the greed that they are allowing the introduction of control mechanisms and slavery, because they've missed this whole part of the matrix here, which is that you have to be okay with yourself. Inner creates the outer. You got to be okay with yourself before you can, kind of go out in the world and do good for other people. They don't know that. They have zero clue about that. And they're still living in this world of, I go buy clothes, it makes me feel good. I go do my hair, it makes me feel good. I go buy these things, it makes me feel good. And that's my value. They're deriving value from external things, which is ridiculous if you know anything about consciousness and you've been through this journey yourself, right? Or all my people who have gone out and made a ton of money and then realize that you can sometimes feel more empty after making a ton of money than you did when you had no money. And it absolutely is not a mechanism for change. It actually just brings a spotlight onto a lot of your behavior that you already have. So it's not a catalyst for change, positive change most of the time. It just depends on the individual. So anyways, you got all this retail money begging for it, right? And they just want to go out and buy a Lamborghini and feel rich for a minute. But believe me, you don't want to see it go to $1 million per Bitcoin, because that would mean that the global economy is in a state of pure collapse and chaos. You wouldn't be able to go buy the Lamborghini because there would probably be riots going on in the streets and all kinds of madness going on in the streets. Now, that's not a case for control at all, but it's a case for value proposition in a marketplace and fair market value, right? So anyways, ETFs, mark my words, they'll go through in September. 3 have been delayed. Those will go through this year. We will see that. So what took 30 years in gold will take 2 years collectively in crypto. That is terrifying. Who's the big cheerleaders behind this? The banks. They've already started to bring in their seedy little claws and just wrap it all over crypto. We've got look at all the people coming into Coinbase from Facebook and securing their positions of power and authority, right? So as Facebook is in all this heat with Cambridge Analytica, and as their stock tanks, there's the monopoly that exists on currently with media. And I can't remember the name of the law, but there's a law that they'll have to come in and break all that up, just like Roosevelt did. He came in, broke up all the big money institutions back then. We saw it with Bell South. Same thing's going on with media. Facebook will be broken up. There will be a new law introduced to manage social media and the powers that they have, because right now they're just backdooring it completely to the NSA, completely to the 3-letter agencies, and let's call it this deep state. They're giving all access to that information. It is now affecting the opinion of the people, because that is where everyone's going to get their opinions: Google News, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And so there will be 100% a breaking up of that, and they have broken laws which they will be held accountable for. So we got all the Facebook people starting to run out the back door who see the writing on the wall, sinking their claws in crypto. We got all the old bankers sinking their claws into crypto. As the Deutsche Bank continues to fail, how many of those people have run into crypto now? We got Bill Clinton doing a keynote speech for Ripple. If you didn't hate Ripple already, you should absolutely hate it, because Bill Clinton is not a good guy. All right, there was a website that was going around for a long time, which is like ClintonBodyCount.com. I think it's been taken down by now. But that family, the disgusting thing that they've done with women, the Haiti situation, stealing money, funneling money, the Russia collusion, and the truths that will come out on all of that will not be good. They will not be able to go out in public. Billy Boy is doing the keynote. Madonna is now supporting Ripple. We got Ashton Kutcher went on Ellen and gave away Ripple for the Feed the Kids in Africa. Just go give the kids food. Go give them money, right? If that's what you wanted to do. But it's all this song and dance and this showboating and virtue signaling that's going on right now with crypto and some of these projects who've allowed themselves to be infiltrated. And I know that this might sound like a big conspiracy theory, but it's really not. Go and research the individuals and then see that, well, it would allow you to piece together that it would make sense for them to come into this space. Madonna's somebody who said that she would give out free blowjobs to anybody who voted for Clinton. That's all found on across the internet. It was a public speech. Thousands of people, kids, families. I think she said BJ. She didn't say blowjob. Anyways, that's the type of people that are coming into crypto from these other failed markets, okay? The fiat world, the fiat game of banking is broken. They all know it. So we see them starting to sink their claws and teeth into crypto. And now, what do you know? Crypto is looking more and more like a regular banking financial institution. And thank God for the Bitcoin maximalists who, they might get on your nerves with their puritanism, but those are the people saving this from being fully bank controlled and owned. Now, that's not to say that crypto enthusiasts are golden boys here, because let's touch on one more topic and then I'll wrap this video up. The Bitmain IPO, I've been just starting to look into that. Very interesting to me, because what it looks like is that they sold off a lot of their Bitcoin, all of their Bitcoin, to buy up BCH, which you remember, I think it was October or November. I even shot a video about this. As soon as they got listed on Coinbase and they attempted the flippening. Before that, Bitmain sold off all of its Bitcoin to buy up and help drive that price up. Remember that? We saw $8,000 Bitcoin Cash. And so now they need to do this IPO because they can't sell off the Bitcoin Cash, because if they did, it would tank the price. And they're trying to keep up this persona and this image. So now they need new money. So that makes total sense. And it was a really botched play, because now it's all public and people are starting to figure that out for the people who are reading between the lines. But really botched play. And it should make you kind of wonder, well, should you be involved in Bitcoin Cash? Because there's, again, a very few people who own it. I would rather own Bitcoin, because even though there's more manipulation coming in, and I firmly believe now that there's very few people who own a lot of it, is I think Bitcoin will prevail because it doesn't have a CEO, because there is no face behind it. Now, if Satoshi were to get unmasked tomorrow, that would change the game completely and I'd have to rethink my position on this. But right now, I think I would rather hold Bitcoin than Bitcoin Cash. And if I held Bitcoin Cash at all, which I don't, I would hold very little of it. So anyways, that's the macro and the micro of what's going on. And, you know, a lot of people don't really know what's going on with this, and they don't get it. They're like, well, wait, why is the price down? All this adoption happening in the mainstream, in the public, banks coming on. We got the Starbucks news, which was confusion, but the Starbucks news is overall good. We got ICE wanting to come in and do this backed, and that was the Starbucks news. And Microsoft and Starbucks is going to use the backed coin, I believe it is, or whatever they're launching. I don't remember. I'm foggy on it now, so I apologize. That was where the Starbucks piece came in. But all this good news happening, right? We have people reversing their position, countries reversing their position on regulation, and yet the price isn't going up. Why? Manipulation, my friends. That is what manipulation looks like. All the good news in the world, the market sees all the good news, but the price isn't going up. That's manipulation. It's suppression, okay? That's what we're dealing with. That's some of the breadcrumb pieces. If you want, take and run with these. Research them yourself. Don't just listen to me and say, okay, now I'm up to speed and I know everything and what he's speaking is truth. Go and do some research for yourself. Figure this out for yourself. But I hope that this has been valuable for you. Please share this around with anybody who's confused about what's going on, who doesn't really understand this market, and you think this video will give them value and serve them up. Share it with them, please, please, please. Toss a like on it. If you're new to the channel and you found us through one of your friends sharing with you, subscribe, hit the bell notification. That way you stay up to date on a lot of the videos that we're releasing. And let's go from there, my friends. Be on the lookout for more videos dropping on the channel very soon. See ya.
Hey, what are you doing down there? So if you noticed, I kind of forgot. This is, I wouldn't say totally common, but let's admit, I forget some stuff in videos. I say, hey, I'm gonna bring this up, and then I don't, all right? Don't be mad. So I talk about, hey, if you've got problems with value and like your value to the world, value proposition, understanding to really be okay with yourself on the inside, all the weird kind of woo-woo stuff that 99% of people think is fake. Well, if you happen to be one of the 1% that wants that stuff, then jump on over to the mindset playlist that I've got, which you'll see somewhere on the screen right now. Ding! And check out those videos because I've got a ton of stuff in there for you guys, and I think it will be really, really beneficial to get your mind right around trading, around cryptocurrency, and really just around success. So anyways, that's all I got. I'm gonna go now, okay?